So, hello friends. Now we are going to discuss the question paper of Union Public Service Commission UPSC GS paper 1 year 2017. See, I have told you before also, now I am 100% convinced 35% of the questions are repeated. If you go through the previous 10 years question paper that I am discussing, 35% of questions are repeated, only the language of the question is changed, the answer remains same. So we are beginning to discuss the question paper of GS paper 1 UPSC 2017. First question is, in spite of adverse environmental impact of coal mining, it is still inevitable for development. मतलब ये कह रहे हैं, ये माना कि इसके एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट्स आर वेरी एडवर्स, बट स्टिल कोल माइनिंग इज इनएविटेबल, अवश्यांबी है, मतलब इट इज इनएविटेबल फॉर डेवलपमेंट. लेट अस see if you go back to beginning of industrial revolution, since the advent of industrial revolution, uh, coal has been the basic energy source that has powered the industries since the beginning of industrial revolution. 1770 से शुरू करो. Since the advent of industrial revolution, coal has been the most fundamental source of energy powering industries. रेल भी कोल से चलती थी, मशीनें भी सारी कोल से चलती थी, सब कुछ. बट ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, other fossil fuels like oil and gas gained prominence. They gained coal continued. Coal is having widespread distribution and basically it is cheap, है ना. तो along with the coal, subsequently other fossil fuels like oil and gas also became important. But despite the advent of oil and gas, the use of coal continued because oil and gas are quite costly as compared to coal. They are very costly and they are not available everywhere. हर जगह वो available नहीं है. So basically coal continued as a primary source of energy. So the lack of availability of oil and gas and high cost inhibit their use in certain sectors of economy, especially in developing countries. भाई ऑयल एंड गैस हर जगह मिलता कहाँ है, और बहुत इंपोर्ट करोगे तो इट्स वेरी कॉस्टली. सो इन सर्टेन सेक्टर्स ऑफ इकोनॉमी, कोल कंटिन्यू टू बी द मेन सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी. If you take China, India, Indonesia in that order, are the world's top 3 coal producing and coal consuming countries. China first, far ahead. Second is India, third is Indonesia. Here basically coal has acquired such a dominant position that it is very difficult to replace it. In certain sectors like steel, chemicals and cement industry, coal happens to be the main source of energy. It cannot be replaced. वरना प्रोडक्ट, अगर तुम हर चीज ऑयल एंड गैस, कोल को रिप्लेस करके ऑयल एंड गैस लाओगे, द प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट विल एस्केलेट. दैट विल बी डेट्रीमेंटल टू कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस ऑफ गुड्स प्रोड्यूस्ड. तो ऐसी कई सारी इंडस्ट्रीज हैं, जैसे सीमेंट इंडस्ट्री, स्टील इंडस्ट्री, केमिकल इंडस्ट्री, वेयर कोल कंटिन्यूज टू बी द प्राइमरी सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी. अच्छा, इंडिया और कई सारे कंट्रीज हैं विच आर ओवरवेलमिंगली रिलाइंग ऑन कोल बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स अबंडेंस. इंडिया में इंडिया इज द वर्ल्ड सेकंड लार्जेस्ट प्रोड्यूसर ऑफ कोल एंड इट इज हैविंग वर्ल्ड्स थर्ड या फोर्थ लार्जेस्ट रिजर्व्स. तो बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स अबंडेंस, its cost effectiveness and established infrastructure supporting its production and use, coal has come to acquire a dominant position. अब ध्यान रखना, this question was asked in 2017 कि despite adverse impact of coal mining, it is inevitable for development. और देखो दुनिया कितनी तेजी से बदल रही है. जब ये क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था 2017 में, if you take the data of 2015 2010, ये 2017 में क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था. In 2010, coal was responsible for 70% of electricity generation in India. 2010 तक coal accounted for 70%, 2010-2015, 70% of total electricity generation in India. और बेसिकली इंडिया में भी और वर्ल्ड में कोल अकाउंट फॉर 37% ऑफ टोटल इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन. और by 2010 and 2015 coal was responsible for 70% of electricity generation in India and 30% of total electricity generation in the world. अभी 37% of the global electricity generation, अभी you can say up to 2015 37% of the electricity was generated using coal. अब देखो क्या ड्रास्टिक चेंज आया है फ्रॉम 2010 टू 2025. ये क्वेश्चन है, डिस्पाइट एडवर्स इंपैक्ट ऑफ कोल, its use, coal mining is inevitable for development. How this question itself is slightly losing its relevance. Coal is inevitable, but not so as it used to be in 2010 and 15. इन 10 सालों में, लास्ट के 10 years में रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का जनरेशन इतने लार्ज स्केल पे हुआ है, स्टिल कोल इज नॉट 100% रिप्लेसेबल. जैसे इंडियाज नेशनली डिटरमाइंड कंट्रीब्यूशन अंडर द पेरिस कन्वेंशन इंक्लूड कि 40% ऑफ द टोटल इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन विल कम फ्रॉम नॉन फॉसिल फ्यूल बेस्ड सोर्सेज बाय 2030. इंडिया ने कमिटमेंट दिया कि 40% ऑफ द टोटल इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेटेड बाय 2030 will come from non-fossil fuel bases. मतलब without use of fossil fuel, we will generate 40% of total electricity from non-fossil fuel based sources. और सेकेंड गवर्नमेंट का एम था कि बाय 2030 रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी its installed capacity will be 450 gigawatt. पहला ये कमिटमेंट था. दूसरा कमिटमेंट था कि 2030 तक रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, that is in government aims to achieve 450 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by 2030. See what miracles have happened. अब as of जुलाई 2025, 2010 तक क्या था? कोल अकाउंटेड 70% ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन. जुलाई 2025 में इफ यू सी, अभी रिसेंटली पिछले मंथ का गवर्नमेंट का डेटा ये, कोल फायर्ड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन इज 220 गीगावाट. डीजल, लिग्नाइट एंड गैस की बेसिक रफली 20 गीगावाट है, लिग्नाइट की 6 गीगावाट है, इसकी 0.5 गीगावाट है. टोटल फॉसिल फ्यूल बेस्ड, दिस इज फॉसिल फ्यूल बेस्ड, टोटल फॉसिल फ्यूल बेस्ड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन इज 245.7 गीगावाट. यानी कि इन जुलाई 2025 लास्ट महीने तक total electricity generated by coal was 220 gigawatt and total fossil fuel based electricity generated was, installed capacity of electricity generation was 245.7 gigawatt. वहीं the drastic change has taken place in case of renewables. Renewable energy sources, they include hydro power plants, they include solar, they include wind, they include biogas, isn't it? Renewables. अगर renewables की बात करें तो बेसिकली नाउ 49 गीगावाट ये, 120 गीगावाट सोलर, विंड की 52 गीगावाट, इन टोटल बायोगैस और भी रिन्यूएबल सोर्सेज हैं. टोटल इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी हैज रीच्ड 237 गीगावाट. 237 gigawatt, that is renewable. This is fossil fuel based, this is renewable energy. अगर renewable energy में we also add the contribution of nuclear power, nuclear generated electricity, then total this renewable plus nuclear means non-fossil fuel based. Non-fossil fuel based. This comes out to be 247 gigawatt. That is the cumulative energy generated by non-fossil fuel based sources, that is renewable energy plus nuclear, is 247 gigawatt, and fossil fuel based energy electricity generation is 245 gigawatt. That is, we have met this, we have exceeded this target कि हम 40% of the total electricity generated will be from non-fossil fuel basis. We have exceeded, ये 2030 तक अचीव करना था 40%, and by 2025 we have achieved more than 50% of the total installed capacity of electricity generation comes from non-fossil fuel based, not 40, more than 50%, and that too by 2025. See, by 2025, non-fossil fuel based energy generation has reached exceeded 50%. India has crossed a historic milestone, achieving 50% of its, more than 50% of its installed electricity capacity from non-fossil fuel based sources. 5 year ahead of the deadline. और हमने कहा था 40% करेंगे नॉन फॉसिल फ्यूल से इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन, और हम कर रहे हैं मोर देन 50% by July 2025. And government is well on track to achieve this target of 450 gigawatt by 2030. As of now, renewable sources में बस basically न्यूक्लियर जोड़ दो तो ये हो जाता है नॉन फॉसिल फ्यूल बेस्ड. केवल रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी से हम 450 गीगावाट जनरेट करेंगे एज ऑफ नाउ. रिन्यूएबल से हम लोग वी आर ऑलरेडी जनरेटिंग 237 गीगावाट, रफली 200 गीगावाट ऐड कर रही है, एंड वी विल ऐड इट. लेकिन समस्या क्या है, at present when we are generating more than 50% of electricity from non-fossil fuel based, still the contribution of coal, which is 220 gigawatt, if it remains, it is as of now July 2025 it is 220 gigawatt, its contribution has come down to 44%. As of now, if you take total electricity generated is 490 gigawatt. That is 247 from non-fossil fuel and 245 from fossil fuel. Total electricity generated is roughly 490 gigawatt. इसमें से अगर हम कोल का शेयर निकालें, still it is 44%. And even if we achieve this target of 450 gigawatt energy coming from renewable sources, and we presume that the contribution of coal remains constant, still the contribution of coal will be 31% of total electricity generated. कोल को आउटराइटली रिप्लेस नहीं कर सकते. मतलब इनएविटेबल क्यों है कि द शेयर ऑफ कोल will still be 31% of the total electricity. अगर हम 450 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल सोर्सेज से करते हैं और बेसिकली कोल का प्रोडक्शन इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन में कंट्रीब्यूशन सेम रहता है, स्टिल दिस 220 गीगावाट विल अकाउंट फॉर 31% ऑफ द टोटल इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेटेड. 450 प्लस 245 कर लो, रफली इट इज 700 गीगावाट. तो आउट ऑफ 700 कोल्स कंट्रीब्यूशन विल बी 31%. if it remains, if coal production कोल से ज्यादा है, हम कोल बेस्ड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन नहीं करते हैं फर्दर, तो भी कोल का कंट्रीब्यूशन विल बी 31%. दिस शोज डिस्पाइट rapid improvement in renewable energy sources for generating electricity, the coal mining is inevitable for development. मतलब कोल पे हम outrightly इसको रिप्लेस नहीं कर सकते. we'll remain dependent on coal, and given its abundant reserves, India hardly can afford to ignore coal mining. So many people are employed, and so much of electricity generation, so much any other industries like steel industry, cement industry and chemical industry, they are so overwhelmingly dependent on coal apart from electricity generation, that coal mining as such cannot be overlooked. It is inevitable. So this was the first question. Second, repeat है. How does cryosphere affect global warming? Cryosphere simply means how does cryosphere affect global warming, global climate, sorry. हाउ डज क्रायोस्फीयर क्या होता है? क्रायोस्फीयर सिंपली मीन्स आइस कवर्ड एरियाज लाइक आर्कटिक आइस, अंटार्कटिक आइस, ग्लेशियर्स, आइस शीट्स, आइस फील्ड, आइस कैप्स और परमाफ्रॉस्ट सॉइल ऑफ टुंड्रा एंड टाइगा रीजन. परमाफ्रॉस्ट सॉइल, दीज क्रायोस्फीयर. एक क्वेश्चन अभी डिस्कस किया था पहले, डिस्कस द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ मेल्टिंग ऑफ आर्कटिक एंड अंटार्कटिक आइस. सेम, अब लैंग्वेज चेंज कर दिया, क्वेश्चन वही है. दिस हाउ डज द क्रायोस्फीयर इफेक्ट ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट? सेम. The cryosphere comprises of frozen areas such as glaciers, ice caps, ice fields, ice sheets, permafrost region, frozen soil. And these ice covered areas are not only confined to this higher latitudes, but in tropics also at higher altitude. These ice covered areas are found in abundance. See, Great Himalayas, so much of ice covered areas are there, isn't it? Siachen Glacier happens to be the largest glacier outside the polar region. In fact, third largest reserves of water, fresh water, after polar, North Pole and South Pole. Third largest reserves of fresh water are stored in Himalayan region. Up cryosphere, how does the cryosphere affect global climate? Basically, these ice covered areas are very efficient reflector of solar radiation, albedo. They reflect the incoming solar radiation without absorbing them. That is, they play a role in cooling the climate. Once these ice covered regions shrink, more and more solar insolation will be absorbed by the earth's surface, leading to further hastening the process of global warming. Second is melting of these ice caps, ice fields, glaciers. They are resulting in rise in sea level and inundation in coastal areas. Sea level rise कर रहा है, coastal area is getting submerged, coral islands are disappearing. Third point को I have discussed very elaborately, जहाँ Arctic और Antarctic glaciers are melting. Third point is global ocean currents will get adversely impacted by melting of Arctic ice. Arctic ice melt करती है, it releases fresh water. Because release of fresh water, salinity is decreased. So when the tropical currents on the surface, when they move towards pole, they are already saline, but as they come into contact with polar water, they become cold. Now when polar ice melts, it reduces the salinity because of influx of fresh water. As a result, on reaching pole, the surface current need to sink and flow as subsurface current in the form of thermohaline circulation. But because of melting of polar ice, decrease in salinity, this surface current is unable to sink because of decreased density. As a result, the entire oceanic circulation gets adversely impacted. This oceanic circulation or ocean currents play a very important role in distribution of global heat and impacting the global climate pattern. So because of melting of polar ice, the ocean current system is getting adversely impacted, thermohaline circulation is getting adversely impacted, which is impacting the distribution of global heat and which is impacting on the global climate pattern. इसको मैंने बहुत डिटेल में डिस्कस किया है, सेम है. मेल्टिंग ऑफ परमाफ्रॉस्ट सॉइल, जैसे टूंड्रा और टाइगा रीजन में ना, टाइगा में तो सॉइल रिमेन्स फ्रोजन फॉर 5 to 7 months. In tundra region, soil remains frozen for 8 to 9 months. Now this frozen soil, below this frozen soil, huge deposits of methane are there. As this permafrost soil gets melted because of global warming, these stores of methane are getting released into the atmosphere, and methane is a greenhouse gas that leads to global warming. As a result of melting of permafrost, as the stores of methane are getting released in the atmosphere, this is further hastening the process of global warming. Next point I discussed in that answer, with the melting of Arctic ice, basically it is adversely impacting the jet stream. Jet streams are becoming weak. Kaise I discussed there, how jet stream are becoming weak. This weakening of jet stream brings erratic jet stream is responsible for genesis of temperate cyclone. So the formation of the rainfall pattern get adversely impacted. The climate as such gets adversely impacted. Extreme events like extreme cold and extreme high temperature, these events become very common. So this was what we discussed, को डिटेल में डिस्कस किया है. Now next answer, account for variation in oceanic salinity. क्या वजह है कि ओशन की सैलिनिटी वेरी करती है. सेकेंड पार्ट इज डिस्कस इट्स मल्टी डायमेंशनल इफेक्ट, कि ओशन की सैलिनिटी के वेरिएशन आने से क्या क्या मल्टी डायमेंशनल इफेक्ट्स होते हैं. तो इट इज डिवाइडेड इन टू पार्ट्स. फर्स्ट पार्ट इज अकाउंट फॉर द वेरिएशन इन ओशन सैलिनिटी. भाई ओशन salinity of the ocean, salinity simply means weight of salt in grams dissolved in per kg of sea water. मतलब weight of salt in grams, 47 different salts हैं, weight of salts dissolved per kg of sea water, that is salinity. तो what are the factors? पहला पार्ट है why does the salinity of the ocean vary. So the first and the most prominent factor for variation in salinity is evaporation. Those areas which are characterized by high evaporation are also characterized by high salinity. For example, if you see on earth, suppose this is equator, this is subtropical region, 25 north to 30 north, 25 south to 30 south. These are subtropical regions. In subtropics, evaporation is very high. Why? Simple. It is here that the air is sinking. In subtropical high pressure belt, air is sinking, therefore high pressure is there. This sinking air does not allow cloud formation. As a result of absence of cloud in subtropical region, abundant insolation reaches the sea surface. Because of abundant insolation, sea surface temperature is high and the adjoining layer of air are filled with vapor. And this sinking air gets adiabatically heated and its moisture holding capacity increases. It becomes warm and dry. And as it reaches the surface, it evaporates the vapor, it absorbs the vapor, and continuous evaporation takes place in subtropical region. भाई subtropical region में evaporation ज़्यादा क्यों होता है? Because the sinking air, it gets adiabatically heated, it becomes dry, and on the surface, because of absence of cloud, abundant insolation is there, sea surface temperature is high, adjoining layer of airs are filled with vapor, and this vapor is absorbed by the sinking air. So evaporation is very high. And that is the reason in subtropics the salinity is high. Second reason for that affect salinity is precipitation. Precipitation, wherever a surplus rainfall takes place, obviously salinity will be low. Like इक्वेटोरियल रीजन, जहाँ फ्रेश वाटर रेनफॉल ज़्यादा होगी ओशन में, जहाँ जहाँ इक्वेटोरियल रीजन है, तो वहाँ पर ऑब्वियसली फ्रेश इनफ्लक्स ऑफ फ्रेश वाटर विल बी देयर, सैलिनिटी विल बी लो. Third, wherever rivers debouch into the ocean, near the mouth of the river, salinity is found to be low. Jahan jahan rivers they debouch into the ocean, like near the mouth of Amazon, salinity is extremely low. Near the mouth of Ganges, salinity is extremely low because of influx of fresh water. Winters में पोलर रीजन्स में आइस स्टार्ट्स फ्रीजिंग. जब भी आइस फ्रीज होती है ना, विंटर्स में ठंड होती है, इन नॉर्दर्न विंटर्स आर्कटिक आइस फ्रीजेस, इन सदर्न विंटर्स अंटार्कटिक आइस फ्रीजेस. एज आइस फ्रीजेस इट एक्सपेल्स द सॉल्ट ब्राइन, नमक को बाहर निकाल देती है. एज अ रिजल्ट द सराउंडिंग वाटर बिकम्स मोर सलाइन. सो विंटर सीजनल फ्रीजिंग ऑफ पोलर आइस enhances the salinity of surrounding water, because when the sea water freezes, it expels the salt brine into the adjoining sea. So salinity adjoining sea बढ़ जाती है. During summer season, when the polar ice melts, this melting of ice releases fresh water, so the salinity of the surrounding ocean decreases. Now ocean currents play a very important role in influencing the salinity. Like you see Gulf Stream, it carries the warm saline water of subtropics to higher latitudes, Norwegian coast. As a result of this warm saline water, when it reaches the coast, it basically carries the warm saline water which prevents the freezing of Norwegian coast. It carries the salinity from tropics to polar regions. The ocean current transport water of different salinity over large distances, like Gulf Stream carries the warm saline water. इस वार्म सलाइन वाटर की सैलिनिटी भी चेंज होती है, प्लस नॉर्वेजियन कोस्ट भी खुली रहती है. तो दीज आर द फैक्टर्स विच इन्फ्लुएंस सैलिनिटी, मतलब अकाउंट फॉर द वेरिएशन इन ओशन सैलिनिटी. क्या क्या वजह है कि ओशन में सैलिनिटी चेंज होती है? दीज आर द फैक्टर्स. नाउ सेकेंड पार्ट इज डिस्कस द मल्टी डायमेंशनल इफेक्ट ऑफ चेंजेस इन सैलिनिटी. ओशन में जो सैलिनिटी चेंज होती है, इसके क्या क्या मल्टी डायमेंशनल इंपैक्ट्स होते हैं? एक तो भाई देखो, salinity is what? Salinity is simply salt dissolved in water. When salinity increases, the physical properties of water undergoes drastic change. The boiling point of water increases because oceanic water is a solution of 47 different salts, and the boiling point of any solution depends upon the boiling point of solute. तो जब सैलिनिटी बढ़ेगी, द टोटल अमाउंट ऑफ डिजॉल्व सॉल्ट विल इंक्रीज, सो बॉइलिंग पॉइंट ऑफ सी वाटर इंक्रीजेज. एज सैलिनिटी इंक्रीजेज, फ्रीजिंग पॉइंट ऑफ सी वाटर डिक्रीजेज. तभी तो वार्म सलाइन गल्फ स्ट्रीम व्हेन इट कैरीज द वार्म सलाइन वाटर टुवर्ड्स नॉर्वेजियन कोस्ट, डिस्पाइट वाटर बीइंग एट 0 डिग्री, इट डज नॉट फ्रीज because of high salinity. Freezing point lowers, and all along the Norwegian coast from Hammerfest to Stavanger, cod fishing is done. But water does not freeze. Increased salinity raises the temperature of ocean. क्यों? सिंपल सी बात है, ये फ्रेश वाटर है having no salt, and this is saline water, sea water having salt brines dissolved in it. Solar insolation आएगा, solar insolation will be absorbed by water and water will evaporate. Solar insolation, as soon as reaches the fresh water, this fresh water absorbs the heat of solar insolation and this fresh water evaporates. But in sea water, it is not so simple. As the solar insolation reaches the sea surface, the salt brines dissolved in sea water, they scatter the solar insolation. Further it gets scattered. Further, by the salt brine, solar insolation gets scattered. Ultimately, most of the solar insolation is absorbed by seawater rather being used in evaporation. Therefore, the temperature of seawater is higher. As the salinity is high, the temperature of seawater is higher. Yes, सरगासो सी देखो, salinity हाई है तो टेम्परेचर इज हाई, और टेम्परेचर हाई होगा तो evaporation ज्यादा होगा और salinity ज्यादा होगी. So, increase in salinity then raises the temperature, it lowers this evaporation. अगर salinity बढ़ती है तो most of the water is evaporated. If salinity increases तो less water is available for evaporation. जैसे salinity ज्यादा होगी, evaporation ज्यादा होगा तो salinity ज्यादा होगी, लेकिन salinity ज्यादा होगी तो evaporation कम होगा. Because once salinity is more, less water is available for evaporation, so evaporation decreases. As salinity increases, the density of seawater increases. So this was the impact of variation of salinity in the physical properties of water. Now let us see the other multi-dimensional impact. पहला, अभी अभी डिस्कस किया है, as the polar ice, Arctic polar ice is melting, it is leading to more influx of fresh water in surrounding polar water, which is inhibiting the sinking of water, that is adversely impacting the thermohaline circulation and overall oceanic currents. The distribution of heat is getting adversely impacted and global climate is undergoing changes. मतलब एक तो इम्पैक्ट सीधा है कि जैसे जैसे पोलर आइस मेल्ट कर रही है, फ्रेश वाटर इन्फ्लक्स बढ़ रहा है, पोलर रीजन में जो सरफेस पे ट्रॉपिकल करंट्स जाते हैं, बिकॉज ऑफ मेल्टिंग ऑफ आइस, सैलिनिटी गेट्स डिक्रीज एंड देयर डेंसिटी गेट डिक्रीज एंड दे डू नॉट सिंक. So this entire oceanic circulation gets impacted, which is responsible for transfer of heat and impacts on the global climate. Second, alteration in salinity impacts distribution as well as behavior of marine organism. देखो, marine organism को broadly दो types में divide कर सकते हैं, cyanohaline and euryhaline. Cyanohaline are those marine organisms which can survive in a narrow range of variation in salinity. So if salinity of the sea changes, the survival of these cyanohaline marine organisms will be at stake. will be at stake. Euryhaline organisms, they can survive in wide variation of salinity. Their zone of existence will increase. They will have, but the stenohaline organism will find it difficult to survive in wide range. They will be confined to narrow range. Ultimately, they will become extinct. So, alteration in salinity impacts distribution of marine organisms. Stenohaline gets restricted to more extent, and they also become extinct, whereas euryhaline continue. Second, salinity is a major factor in reproduction. Basically, salinity, certain organism can reproduce only in particular range of salinity. जैसे कि सरगासो सी है, वहां पर salinity is very high, और यूरोपियन ईल्स माइग्रेट टू सरगासो सी फॉर रिप्रोडक्शन. Although one of the factor is कि वहाँ seaweeds हैं, so they get protected from their predators. Second is that saline water is, कुछ marine organisms होते हैं जो estuaries में, जहाँ sea water and fresh water meets, they breed in those water. So specific marine organisms require specific amount of salinity for their reproduction. Coral polyps को ले लो. Coral polyps can survive in a narrow range of salinity. Fresh water kills them. High saline water kills them. They can survive in a range of 27 to 40 salinity. उससे ज़्यादा कम होगी तो coral reefs gets destroyed, bleaching हो जाती है. Salinity is a key variable shaping the distribution of biota across all trophic level. Salinity is a key variable that determines the distribution of biota, means life, biota across all trophic level in marine ecosystem. Increased salinity has adverse impact on coastal ecosystem. जैसे salinity बढ़ती है, जो mangrove forest हैं, which acts as a frontier between sea and land, these mangrove forests are unable to survive in high salinity. Increased salinity has adverse impact on mangrove ecosystem. This increased salinity leads to reduction in the growth of mangrove ecosystem. Mangrove vegetation की growth को adversely impact करते हैं, और इनकी जो seedling है, उनके सर्वाइवल, जो इनके नए पौधे बन रहे हैं, सीडलिंग का सर्वाइवल डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है. इंक्रीज इन सैलिनिटी लीड्स टू रिडक्शन इन ग्रोथ एंड सीडलिंग सर्वाइवल एंड इंक्रीज्ड मोर्टेलिटी, thus reducing biodiversity. Increased salinity disrupts the metabolic activity of marine organism. Increased salinity disrupts the metabolic rates of marine fishes and invertebrates, and this may also increase salinity may also disturb their fertilization. वो बच्चे भी नहीं कर पाएंगे पैदा. So this will lead to changes, reduction in biodiversity. So these are the multidimensional effects of changes in salinity.